welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. I'll be your astrologer today. Back at it with another video. We're taking a look at this extra sweet up and coming new moon in Gemini. If you guys like my content, you want to see more of it, click that bell button below, subscribe to the channel, and support my work as a full-time content creator. We're here every Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday talking about what's going on in the cosmos. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Leave me a thumbs up if you like this video and let me know where this new moon is taking place in your natal chart. All right, guys, really excited to talk to you and break down this up and coming new moon that'll be taking place on June the 6th, 2024. Those of you guys who are going to be affected the most will be my Gemini sun, moon, and rising placements. If you have any personal degrees from 14 to 18 degrees of Gemini, this will be impacting you because a new moon will be conjunct these degrees. It could be a north node, another planet, your Venus might be extra sweet. So just pay attention if you have any planets or angles conjunct those degrees. Now, Gemini is a mutable air sign. It's the third sign of the zodiac, ruled by Mercury. All about communication, curiosity, and seeing the other sides of situations. So it's going to be interesting. We're going to be taking a look at where Mercury is. Thankfully, Mercury is in Gemini at the time of this particular new moon in its domicile or its home sign. Equally, we're going to be seeing some extra sweet aspects with Venus because this is taking place round about the time that we're having a Venus cazimi. There's a lot of hype around this new moon. We're going to see lots of, people forecasting and predicting that this is very positive for relationships. And I do agree with that. I think it's extra sweet, very rare and unusual to see a new moon exactly conjunct Venus. But there's some other aspects that we're going to talk about as well that can be, sweet and salty. But I'm optimistic about this and excited to break it down. We're going to be really taking a look at this new moon from the perspective of the beginnings that it has to offer us. New moons are all about fresh perspectives, and also this one's about enhanced connection. What makes this really sweet, I think, is that Venus is in conjunction, so it's really emphasizing harmony and beauty and pleasure. So we're going to unpack this and kind of talk first about how to work with this energy and what new moons mean. So new moons in astrology, we see a new moon every 28 days. We're going to see this in the sign of Gemini. So it's when the sun and the moon come into conjunction with one another. And this is when the moon is basically positioned between the earth and the sun. So the sun and the moon are going to be sharing the same degree in the zodiac. So this alignment, this new moon represents new beginnings, growth, and fresh starts. So it's going to be seen through the lens of Gemini, communication, curiosity, adaptability, flexibility. This is something that Gemini, being a mutable sign, is all about. And I think that this new moon is encouraging us to set intentions revolving around our mental processes, communication skills, and learning to communicate from the heart space. Now, the Sabian symbol for this particular new moon, because it's at 16 degrees, so we're going to round up and we're going to look at 17 degrees. But if you guys caught my Venus and Gemini video, the actual cazimi, the first conjunction, was at 15 degrees. So I read you guys the 16 degree of Gemini, and that was about liberty and justice for all. So if you guys haven't seen that video, go check that video out. But in this case, we're going to read 17. So 17 degrees of Gemini, the Sabian symbol says, the head of health dissolved into the head of mentality. The theme is maturation. The symbol speaks to the process of maturation or growth from youthful self-involvement to the development of social conscience. The image of a head of health dissolved in the head of mentality suggests spiritual growth, self-awareness, and the ability to see the world through the eyes of others. This degree also amplifies that physical and mental well-being are a result of well-rounded, very practical grounding in the everyday world of fact. At its highest, the symbol represents self-integration, broad vision, and wisdom. Watch for Peter Pan syndrome or an obsession with youthfulness and a simple refusal to grow up. The accent is on maturity and expansion of consciousness. It's time to put selfish concerns aside and focus on the welfare of the whole. Your greatest advantage lies in looking into the future to do what you can expect to experience if you continue in your present direction or course of action. Guard against relying on others to take care of your needs or handle your responsibilities. Don't get caught unprepared. Stepping stones are maturation, adulthood, development, growth, evolution, completeness, wholeness, well-rounded, self-integration, well-being, and wisdom. Really interesting because, well, we're going to see, obviously, one of the aspects connected to this new moon is going to be a square to Saturn. So I could see this whole, learning to get outside of ourselves and learning to be more compassionate and sympathetic and understanding to other people, right? Saturn in Pisces. But in practical terms, I kind of see this being more about moving away from, or a transition, I guess I should say, where we're shifting our focus from physical strength and action to mental strength and also wisdom. So this could manifest a variety of different ways for you guys on an individual level. I could see that, one example would be like a person moving from a career that requires physical labor or something that's more athletic to something that's going to be more intellectual, more about communication, perhaps connected to learning or writing or sharing of some kind, because we see that shift from something that's more physical to something that's like more cerebral. We may also see that this is a new moon that's having us, we're feeling more so drawn, I guess, to cerebral pursuits such as philosophy, writing, and kind of like maturing in a mental sense, because we kind of see that shift with the Sabian symbol in how we think, how we communicate and relate to other people. Now, relationships are a hot topic with this new moon, whether you're in one or not, because of the conjunction to Venus. So it could symbolize or indicate, a shift from the excitement of a new love to like a deeper, more profound, reflective kind of connection. And it can suggest that the dynamics of a friendship or relationship really begin to unfold through in-depth conversation where you're discussing and talking about what you love and what you need from one another. So we might find that there's more emotional support rather than the sense of physical companionship. So it may be less about physical intimacy, more about kind of emotional intimacy and how we're kind of learning to be more transparent and vulnerable with other people. There is obviously a connection to aging and the aging process, right? And so I think any Venus-Saturn aspect, we're going to kind of deal with growing old, kind of catching the gray hair, seeing the wrinkles, recognizing and realizing how we are evolving in our relationships to others and ourselves as we get older, and how things kind of change with age. It can also be about the aging process with our bodies, and we might see that, obviously as we get older, our bodies lose some sense of strength and resilience, but our minds become richer and more insightful. And also there's like a sense of wisdom, right, with like experiencing growing old. So it's all about the wisdom that we gain from our experiences and learning to see the world in a more complex and kind of like nuanced way. The symbol suggests and encourages us to embrace this transformation and to value the insights that come with age and experience. So like I said, makes perfect sense with the square to Saturn. But we'll get to that in a second. I really want to focus mostly on the conjunction to Venus and also the Mercury conjunction to Jupiter, the Mercury trine Pluto. There's going to be some really, really powerful aspects with this new moon. So don't let the Saturn stuff overshadow this. Let's focus on the positive. I do see this as a time where, the conjunction that we're seeing with Venus is a pretty rare occurrence with a new moon. So, having this conjunction astrologically means that we're setting new intentions, or there's new beginnings revolving around love, beauty, and harmony. So if you're looking for a new relationship, if you're wanting to, make some style changes, if you're wanting to enhance beauty, all of these things are going to be kind of coming up during this particular new moon. We actually had the last Venus cazimi. So I went and I looked back at the last time that we had this, and it was happening in June of 2020. So if you want to go back and look at what was going on in your life then, it looks like it was right around like the 3rd or the 4th of June in 2020. And the cazimi is when Venus is right in conjunction, superior position, right ahead of the sun, right? The difference is that when we had this in June of 2020, it was a Venus retrograde. So Venus was retrograding, coming into conjunction with the sun. Something was being revealed. That was also in the midst of eclipse season in the spring of 2020. We were having the North Node in Gemini, South Node in Sag. And just days later, actually on the 5th of 2020 in June, we saw a lunar eclipse in Sagittarius in opposition to this degree. It was around 15 degrees. So, you know, just some food for thought. Maybe some things that were being seeded then are now kind of up for some kind of revamping, right? Venus is, you know, kind of being reborn in the heart of the sun. She's dying and being reborn. So we can see themes revolving around one phase of relationships ending, you know, another one beginning. Maybe we're kind of assessing our relationship status with some people and somebody new emerges. Obviously, we know that Gemini can be like double trouble, so we can see more than one option that can appear with Venus in this sign. But I also think that that reactivation of the opposition point to the eclipse, there's something to be said about that. So certainly for the mutable signs, especially Gemini and Sagittarius, this can be very relationship oriented for you. It's almost like something revolving around those eclipses at that period are coming back up. I think Jupiter being in Gemini is also, you know, where we had eclipses there a couple years ago, is kind of reinforcing or bringing back up some growth in regards to these themes. Yeah, it's gonna be really interesting to see. I mean, just in theory, you know, the new moon in Gemini is going to enhance communication, but that conjunction to Venus is a fantastic time to be really setting intentions relating to improving your communication skills with other people. So whether this is improving, you know, yourself more and, you know, how you communicate, it's wonderful for resolving conflicts or simply being a better listener. And the energy of this new moon can help you achieve these goals. I see like Mercury kind of connected to Gemini. So, you know, Venus being in this sign, I think is about sending the thank you note. It's about making the phone call and telling somebody, you know, you miss them. It's about sending somebody a love letter or letting them know that you're thinking of them via text message. These are the things that we want to be doing. And this particular new moon, the intentions that are set, that are written down, write them down, are going to be extremely potent. So this is a good time to be manifesting both mentally and in a sense of what you're writing, what you're thinking, what you're saying, because where intention goes with these aspects, energy flows. We will eventually see this become a full moon. It'll be in 6 months' time, so we got a little bit of time before that happens. I also was looking at some of the other eclipses that were happening in the spring of 2021. We had that spring a solar eclipse in Gemini. So it was at 19 degrees. It was a couple degrees away. But that was a solar eclipse with a cazimi. So you may also see similar kind of connections to that solar eclipse as this new moon in Gemini is conjunct that, as Jupiter is getting ready to kind of hit that later this year as well. So think back to what was going on then. I do anticipate this is going to bring, as all Gemini, you know, transits do, increase, you know, curiosity. So, you know, Gemini is a very curious sign. Obviously, it's ruled by Mercury, so it's about asking questions and the back and forth and the banter and the communication and the learning and the mischievousness as well. This is a sign that's very eager to learn and explore. So a new moon here is basically encouraging you to embrace curiosity and set intentions relating to expanding your knowledge. Exploring new hobbies or even embarking on a new course of study is a wonderful way to celebrate this new moon. Now, like I said, you know, with that, there is not just mental activity, there's also creative activity. So I think this is going to enhance creativity because the combination of the intellectual energy of Gemini and Venus and the artistic kind of like romantic kind of vibe, or feeling like there's like a muse that shows up in our life, will definitely, you know, influence this new moon as a very potent period to start new creative projects. So things like writing, painting, dancing, any form of art, but especially those that are about communicating, writing, or learning are going to be enhanced. And I think this is a wonderful new moon to tap into your creative potential. Now, on the topic of relationships, touched on it a little bit, but I'm going to say this again. This is likely going to be enhancing and also improving relationships because of Venus's conjunction. So the moon-Venus aspect is also very sweet, right? We're talking about this in a new moon, but the moon is our emotional bodies. It's our private life. It's our home. It's our emotions and our connection to our roots and our past. So this may also be beautiful for enhancing the relationship with relatives, with roommates, specifically siblings or neighbors. Wonderful time to be like, we're having a block party, or, you know, we're having a barbecue, we're inviting neighbors over, we're getting to know other people in our community. But it can be also improving one-on-one romantic relationships and also attracting more love into your life. So if you're seeking a romantic partner, if you want a new boyfriend, girlfriend, if you want to get married again, if you want to meet somebody new, if you're seeking more clients or some kind of creative collaboration, this is the time to set those intentions, because likely they're going to be blessed and we'll see something come of this. Jupiter will hit this degree several times this year. So that's something else to kind of think about, is that when Jupiter eventually does turn retrograde later in 2024, I believe it's going to be somewhere around like 20 or 21 degrees. So it's going to hit 16 degrees a couple times, both, later this summer going into the fall, and then it will retrograde over that. So I do feel like this is a new moon that has legs. We will see certain periods of time where there is going to be some sparkles of some of the growth coming from this. So let me show you guys those degrees really quick. Actually, there's a few. We're going to see Mercury hit this 16 degree. So that's going to happen, it looks like, right around June the 10th. We will eventually see Jupiter come into conjunction with this degree, and I believe when it does, it's going to be happening with Mars conjunction. Okay, so we've got Jupiter and Mars at 16 degrees. That's going to be happening right around August 14th. Now, I'm going to do a separate video on that, but I will just say that this is a positive aspect. Mars rules the North Node in Aries, so it's about our direction, our destiny, our drive. And when Mars comes into conjunction with Jupiter, which is a benefic planet, likely this is going to be almost like really showing the positive aspects of both of these planets. Taking action in writing, communicating, teaching, learning, taking action when it comes to being more active, going on bike rides, walking, that kind of stuff. So this will be another point. So you want to make a note of this August 14th period, mid-August, that you're going to see another kind of growth as a result of the intentions that you're setting. So obviously, Jupiter's already at that 16 degrees. It will pass, and then we're going to see Jupiter return to 16 degrees, and it looks like that's going to be happening later this fall. And that'll be when Jupiter, right around beginning of December is what it looks like. So like the 5th maybe through, round about mid-month. And then Jupiter will come back and hit that 16 degrees, and that'll be one last time. And looks like that's going to be happening in April of 2025. So my goodness, do not miss out on the opportunity to set intentions during this new moon, because you are going to see several growth spurts that are going to happen with the intentions relating to that. Equally, like I said, this will become a full moon. So I want to show you guys the full moon chart. So that full moon will be on December 15th, 2024. Full moon in Gemini, okay, 23 degrees, still relatively close to Jupiter. Jupiter will be retrograde. We're also going to have some mutual reception between Jupiter and Mercury because they're in each other's signs, and this will be a Mercury retrograde, so that's going to be interesting. And super holy cow, mutable squares, Batman. This is going to be kind of like a, oh my gosh, what is happening moment. That could also be the grand reveal. Sometimes when we see Kazimis, there is something that is being revealed that we were not aware of. So just some food for thought for you guys in terms of how this may potentially play out. So let's go back to the new moon. There we go. And let's talk a little bit about maybe some things that you guys can do to really enhance the flavor of this new moon because of the conjunction of Venus. So number one for me would be journaling. Whether you're wanting to journal your thoughts, write down your dreams, if you're wanting to have a manifestation, notebook, if you're wanting to do it for self-reflection reasons, if you're wanting to keep notes, I recommend doing that stuff. That's one of the best things that you guys can be doing with this. And it's important to take time to reflect on your communication skills, how you communicate and kind of connect with other people, and really set intentions to really look at the areas of your relationships that you'd like to improve. Now, Gemini is a very mental sign. So something else that kind of comes to mind, especially with the squares that we're going to see to Saturn, is meditation. Gemini is all about relaying information and kind of going back and forth, but Pisces is more reflective. It's more about meditation, rest, recuperation, sleeping on it before we say something, doing our research before we announce something. But I would recommend meditation during this new moon because I feel like it's going to help us harness and focus more on the energy of Gemini. and what we really love, who we love, what we want to share, you know, and also take the time to really prioritize relationships, or take the time to really think things through when it comes to our creative endeavors. I do think that, you know, this is going to be really helpful in having a better understanding of ourselves and being able to connect the dots in how we feel and how we communicate with other people. I love, with Mercury in its domicile in Gemini, anything connecting to air. So it's not just about writing, it can be about communicating and sharing, but it can also be about working with, you know, incense. It can be about working with chimes and sound, especially Venus's kind of connection to sound. So this might be a time where, you know, a certain music or an album or a certain artist is really influencing something about your intentions that you're kind of setting. So anything sound related or incense related, or things even that, you know, can be burned, that can be in the air, can be helpful. And I would also say that this would be a good time to consider doing a vision board, just because of the squares that we see to Saturn, as well as building squares to Neptune that you'll see later in the month of June, to really gather images and specifically words, okay? Words that represent intentions relating to this new moon. So usually vision boards are more kind of like, okay, I'm gonna take all these pictures and kind of slap them together and this is what I'm manifesting. You can do that, but I would say you're gonna get a lot further with words than you are with actual images. And the question is are the words that you're kind of putting on your word or your vision board matching up with the, you know, the vision or the intentions that you're wanting to kind of, you know, like focus on? Be specific. That's the other thing with these mutable squares. So many times I've seen, and I've had this experience myself, like creating vision boards and you put things on there and, you know, sometimes they show up like quite literally. Because we're going to see squares between Gemini, which is about words, and squares to stuff in Pisces, which is about pictures. Be specific. So don't just slap pictures on a vision board, put words, go and cut out words or create, you know, a whole list of words and things that you want to put on there. This really reminds me also of stuff that we've seen go around social media where, you know, in like the new year, they put out like the puzzle or they put out like the crossword search. And they're like, okay, the first 3 words that you see are like what your new year is going to be all about. And like, you know, you look at not the block of all of the jumbled words and then you're like, okay, these are the 3 words that I noticed first. It reminds me of that. It may feel that it's difficult or challenging to find the words that you're trying to find when it comes to your manifestations. I would say like, you know, break out a dictionary or a thesaurus or something that you can use to get really specific when it comes to what you're hoping to manifest. Watch for opportunities for new beginnings, enhanced communication, improved relationships, and I think all of this is going to happen because of the intentions that we're going to be setting. Now, outside of this, there's some other really significant aspects here. Probably, you know, with Mercury being the ruler and its conjunction to Jupiter, it is enhancing and making communication all that more important. Contracts more important, travel more important, cars, vehicles, information, data, social media, how we're connecting and relating to each other on a global level. So I do think that the Mercury-Jupiter conjunction is an indication that this is a new moon that is coming with some kind of good news, good intentions, but it also is behind the new moon, okay? So it's kind of almost like, not quite 12th house, whole sign, it's in the same sign, but it is behind the new moon. So this is also mirroring and reflecting where taking time to reflect, dig deep, think, and manifest, or have a little bit of faith is important for really honing in on the vision before we set our intentions. So it's mirroring a lot of this Saturn-Neptune stuff that I see in Pisces. What can come with a Mercury-Jupiter conjunction? Taking a new course, learning a new language, buying a new car, traveling to a new place, moving. It is definitely about positive, funny, exciting, enlightening information. And Gemini is, in my opinion, more kind of quick information. It can be short form. You know, there's a reason why Gemini has a connection and an association traditionally with elementary, right? This is about where we learn the basics of reading and writing and socializing, which we do in the younger grades. High school is going to be more, you know, Leo, and college is going to be more Sagittarius. So this is also putting an emphasis on just getting started in learning something, just getting started in a brand new book or a brand new course or a brand new lesson. And also approaching, you know, our intentions with this new moon with a sense of humor, with being funny, like Jupiter is funny. Mercury is really, I think, excited to be able to receive a lot of the information that's coming in. This can also enhance, like I said, travel. So Jupiter is traditionally, I think, connected to like airports and things pertaining to international travel, while Gemini is more about, you know, getting around town and being kind of local. For sure, I think this is going to be a new moon that is going to be really providing lots of new avenues when it comes to communicating, connecting, and learning. So I think we're going to see some real growth when it comes to certain social media platforms, because Gemini is what you hold in your hand. So I think we're going to see that there may be options or ways of being able to connect more frequently or globally or faster. I think people might be more optimistic about the way that we're kind of relaying information, and it's helping kind of connect people from all over the globe, because Jupiter is a global planet. While these two are aligning and connecting, bringing some kind of good news or positive thinking at the time of this new moon, they are also both simultaneously trining Pluto. So if you guys caught my horoscopes for June, I talk a lot about how, wow, there's just some amazing transits right off the bat at the beginning of the month. That's excellent for signing contracts, booking travel, launching, you know, websites, podcasts, launching new websites. And that's because of this conjunction in a trine to Pluto in Aquarius. So some things that you'll notice just from the Jupiter conjunction to Mercury is enhanced communication, increased curiosity. There's going to definitely be a feeling of wanting to expand into new places and new things. Improved social skills, because obviously, you know, this is happening in an air sign, so it might open the door for us to be more sociable, more charming, you know, and improving our interaction with other people. But also it can be a little risky, like risk taking in a good way. I think that with Mercury conjunct Jupiter, there is a tendency to take risks, especially in areas related to communication and learning. So you may find yourself in a situation where you're like, I don't know if this person's going to respond to my call, but I'm going to pick up the phone and call them. And, you know, I don't know how it's going to go. I'm afraid to reach out to them. You know, what if they reject me? And then they answer the phone and it's like a really pleasant conversation, you know? It can also mean that we are expanding our mind, Mercury, Jupiter, and taking more risks and kind of being willing to initiate change, and change in what? You know, Pluto's in Aquarius. Change when it comes to how we view the future, technology, how we're viewing power, how we're looking at our friendships, our connection to other people. And so certainly words have a lot of power with this new moon, right? Information is also going to be extremely transformational. So some of the stuff that's coming up for us mentally and also out in the world, because Gemini rules things like the newspapers and, you know, news stations, podcasts, radio stations, there is going to be just a whole like renaissance period of basically reporting. I think we're going to see a lot of reporters, because Mercury is more about the people who go out there and they get the news and they get the information and they write the story. That trine to Pluto is basically saying that there's a lot of power that is being brought to the collective, to the masses, as a result of people who are out in the streets, getting the news, doing the interviews, on the scene, and are willing to travel to go and get the stories, right? Mercury, Jupiter. This is also going to be people who are willing to be brave and kind of go to places and expand their mind and horizons and break through cultural, religious, spiritual, you know, kind of norms. And they're going to be going to some places that they may not speak the language, they may not understand the culture, but they want to go and get the story so they can relay it and get it online so people can kind of see what's going on. So this is going to be good news, I think, for a lot of independent media. And people who are really hoping to make a name for themselves, because they're putting themselves front and center of what is potentially going to be some really interesting times. Now that trine to Pluto, on the other hand, you know, we're starting to lose the Jupiter trine Pluto at this point. It's still a part of the new moon, so you're going to feel it for the immediate next like month to 6 months. But when Jupiter starts to leave that trine, which it will later in June, we will not get it again. It will not retrograde back to that degree. So this is very powerful here, guys. Super, super powerful. It is all about, with Jupiter trine Pluto, deep insights, right? This is an aspect that can bring deep insights and understanding, especially in areas relating to power, transformation, and social change. Well, what is that coming through? Gemini related things. The people who are going to get on the news, they're going to get on Twitter, they're going to, be posting their Substacks, and they're going to be relaying some of this information. And it can help us all change in a collective way because Pluto is now retrograde in the sign of Aquarius. I love this for motivation. I feel like it's very motivational. It's a lot of like, okay, we can do it, like mind over matter, because it provides, I think, a really strong motivation to make significant changes in our lives and in the lives of other people. There can be, we can see issues with intimidation that can happen because trines are Jupiter energy, so it kind of blows stuff out. So when you take Jupiter and you put it in Gemini, it's already moving through a sign that, is opposite of Sagittarius, so it doesn't function as well. It's a bit debilitated here. And then it trines Pluto, who is like the big bad wolf. So it can enhance through communication, intimidation. It can be things relating to online bullying. It can be where there can be some really intense, kind of scary conversations, but there can also be exposure of emails, documents, phone calls, all kinds of things where, people are exposing, hey, this person was basically, corrupted, or, they were convinced to, tell a lie, or they were they were told to not say anything, or, they were silenced in some way. So it can bring that stuff out. But I would say watch for the intense communication. And even if it's not your intention, some words and things can come off as intimidating. And then obviously social impact. So, Jupiter trine Pluto, it's encouraging us to use our communication skills, Jupiter and Gemini, to really focus on insights and information and the impact that I think it's going to be having on all of us collectively. Aquarius is about politics. It has a connection to that. It is also about groups and like boards and, collaborations of groups and even like major companies. So there could definitely be some big insights that are coming out or big announcements relating to these things that make headlines. Just watch for those aspects because those seem to be the biggest. I honestly see more positive than negative. So, I don't mean to say this for it to sound negative with the square to Saturn, but it does need to be considered because, a few days after this new moon, within like 2 days, Venus will then square Saturn. The sun and the moon will also square Saturn. So we're going to feel both expansion and contraction. Now, Venus square Saturn in general, for me, it's, good things are going to come with time, patience, and vision. That's my perspective on this because Venus is in an opening square. So one of the first squares that we see throughout Gemini season is planets coming into a square with Saturn. So the new moon, Venus, right? Those planets squaring Saturn will be the first one. That's the speed bump. That's the delay. That's the setback. Later in the month, we will then see planets start coming into a square with Neptune where it's like, wait, can we trust this? Is this reality? Am I seeing things? Like, where did that relationship or that person go? So there can be holdups and then there can be ghosting. So keep that in mind. But I think that the new moon in general, because this is a new moon square Saturn, is basically saying that this is a time of tension and challenges between communication, relationships, and personal growth. It also suggests that we may, face some obstacles and we may feel restricted in expressing our thoughts and our feelings. Saturn is restriction, boundaries, limitations. When it comes to connecting and being able to share our ideas. Well, Saturn in Pisces is like I've said, it's an invisible wall. It's a barrier. Some invisible limitations or inability to break free or to, kind of feel heard, right? Gemini. Throughout this year, we will see not just in Gemini season, but through the Jupiter-Saturn square in August and December, some limitations of freedom, right? Jupiter of communication, Gemini. And so this is kind of also forecasting, saying like, there's a lot of people who are going to start getting online and having something to say. There's a lot of people who are going to start meeting in their local community centers or libraries or in their city halls, or people who are showing up to, city council meetings. This is about people who are going to start getting more active, more vocal, more communicative, and involved in their local environments. This square to Saturn might be where, we have certain representatives that say, I don't want to hear it. or, you know, I'm not showing up, or I'm not returning their call, or I'm not taking your questions. And that will happen. You know, we will see those things happen, unfortunately. But I think that with the oppositions and the closing squares, you know, when we're in Virgo and Sagittarius season, the truth will prevail. I think Jupiter always tells us that the truth will prevail. And that's a huge signature with the Mercury, you know, Jupiter conjunction. I think really for me that this is implying that, yes, we may encounter difficulties in this next lunar cycle. So for the next month, but also the next 6 months as this becomes a full moon, in our relationships, in communication, in learning. But I think, you know, Saturn's influence is about us being able to see the limitations and the boundaries and overcoming it. Saturn square can definitely influence a feeling of loneliness and emotional distance. Okay, Venus square Saturn is very emotional distance. It's like, why is this person not being affectionate? You know, why are they not being touchy-feely? Why haven't I heard back from them? And I really feel like Venus in the sign of Gemini is about, you know, communication and calling and responding. So there can be a sense of being like, okay, you know what, like that person's not giving me an answer. So, you know, where do we stand in relationships? In some cases, delays can actually be a good thing. And I think some of us will see that later in the month of June as planets start to square Neptune. We'll realize like, well, if that person really cared, they would have called. Or if they wanted to, you know, they would have. Or, you know, they would have shown up. They would have come. They would have responded. And so some people's kind of course of action may be, you know, I'm not waiting for them. You know, so much about the Sun Venus is about loving oneself, taking care of oneself, speaking kindly to oneself, not waiting for somebody else to give you approval or to kind of give you the green light. So, you know, Saturn squares, I think these periods it's always crucial to be patient and persistent. That's what Saturn squares have taught me. You know, the challenges that you may face in this situation is going to be opportunities for growth and learning. Recently, I saw something on Twitter that was like showing like these two metal balls that were on a track. And one was just a direct kind of like angular down the ramp to the end point. And then the other one was a ball that was kind of going up and down, and it had peaks and valleys. And even though both of the balls left at the same time, the straight and narrow path, which was easy and direct, was not as fast as the ball that was accelerating as it was going up and down. Reminds me of that. It's kind of like saying, like, you know, while you have setbacks and challenges and delays, it's actually going to propel you forward. It's going to create more force. There's going to be periods of resistance, and there's going to be periods where you're going to come out of it and you're going to kind of launch in some way. So the way that we communicate and relate to other people and the way that we think, I think there's going to be a lot of us realizing where we stand in relationships and the things that are left unsaid. The things that aren't said, the people who aren't making the connection, they're not kind of bridging the gaps, right, in relationships. I think it's really important to just reflect on your communication style in relationships to build a stronger connection. This can involve setting boundaries, right? Saturn is a boundary. But it can also be about proactively listening and being open to different perspectives. Oof. Something I'm always asking myself is like, are you waiting to talk, or are you actually listening? And I think it's been really helpful in working with clients, but just me in general. And I think this is a mirror of that, especially in the mutable signs. Gemini wants to talk, but Pisces is always there to listen. And we may feel like, well, we're trying to talk, we're trying to tell people how we feel. And that Saturn and Pisces can be, people aren't listening. They're not hearing your feelings. They're not responding. But if you see some of those limitations and challenges and you recognize them and you go, here, I think this is what's happening. Are you hearing what I'm saying here? We can actually use this as an opportunity to strengthen relationships and strengthen bonds and make major transformations in how we relate to other people. See this as an opportunity to level up, you know, with the square, instead of, you know, the escapism, the hiding, the kind of, you know, whatever. Like, have the conversations with people that you need to have. Be honest, be truthful, tell the truth, right? Mercury, Jupiter, rather than not showing up and having the conversation and giving other people the opportunity to meet you halfway and grow with you. Another way of looking at this is that, you know, for some people that this can be a lot of hard work and obstacles that are coming up that might dampen, right? That's the square to the initial positive progress. And so I see this as try again. You know, don't just stop. Don't just wait for one reply and then go, okay, there's no point. Keep working at it, because we're going to see that if we want better relationships, if we want more money, if we want more harmony, if we want to see, you know, our creative projects come to fruition, we're going to have to try again. So don't get too agitated. I also think that there can be some challenges and lessons to be learned in expressing love with other people. And, you know, some people may be more the Saturn side of it, things where they're more structure and, you know, rigid, or they've got their guard up or their walls up. And then other people can be a little bit more spontaneous and kind of like playful, right? Venus in Gemini is it's very flirty. It's very playful. It's very fun and free, and kind of like anything is possible. So we may also find that, you know, relationships are presenting themselves that may be a little bit more lighthearted. They may not be super serious or committed, but it is entertaining the idea of just getting back out there and connecting with people and getting outside of our shell. I think that the other way of looking at this is that this is about taking a different approach to relationships, whether that's with your partner or other people that are around you, because it's really trying to get you to explore the balance between structure and spontaneity in relationships. So that's another way of looking at it. Something that came up for me when I was writing this was that the song, you know, you can't always get what you want, but you get what you need. And I've seen that a lot with Venus square Saturn. It's like, okay, well, I don't want this. Yeah, but, you know, this is what you need. And I think that we can realize that a lot in relationships. You know, sometimes people, especially people who've been in relationships for a long time, I've oftentimes heard couples say, well, they weren't originally my type, or I wasn't really initially interested, or, you know, I wasn't looking for anybody. And then they just kind of like showed up. Okay, so that can be also very much Venus square Saturn, not necessarily getting what you wanted. Venus in Gemini is about options and choices and changes. And so I think that some of us may have people pop into our lives when we least expect it, when we're not looking for it, when we're like when we're in our healing phase, who are here to talk to us, communicate, share, kind of lighten the load a little bit, and give us a sense of, I think, a change of relationships that can be extremely positive and very loving, and an opportunity for change. Now, something else to kind of keep in mind that's happening in the background, there is a lot of outer planet things going on with this particular new moon. You know, obviously we have this stellium of planets in Gemini, so the Gemini area of your chart is going to be like lit up like a Christmas tree. But there's a lot of outer planet stuff that's going to be happening here as well. We do see a building square between Mars and Pluto. So this is going to be happening, I believe, closer to the 11th of June. So it's not exact with this particular new moon, but it's within about 3 degrees. Mars in Aries in its home sign, squaring Pluto in Aquarius. It's an out of sign square because Mars is about to drop into Taurus. So something else that kind of comes with this is with Pluto-Mars squares, the pressure is on. There is pressure between, you know, our personal desires, right, Mars and Aries, and where we are going and what we are doing, and our need to get what we want, versus what's going on with other people, Pluto and Aquarius. Now, as Mars is getting ready to come into Taurus pretty soon, first it's going to hit that critical 29 degrees, and then it's going to drop in and it's going to square later this month. When Mars goes into Taurus, right, it's moving into, you know, its opposite sign of its rulership, Scorpio. So it's going to slow down. We are going to find that the Mars in Taurus transit is it's time to prioritize pleasure, resources, and our self-esteem. But something about this building square in Aries and Aquarius tells me that sometimes we can be like really overzealous, or we can be super self-focused, or we can be extremely, you know, kind of goal-oriented with getting our needs met, and have like tunnel vision, and it can be hard for us to kind of consider other people. So obviously with the new moon in Gemini, where there's going to be so many options and so many choices, and also kind of like temptation, there can be a sense of us rushing into things because of our desires, which may be, you know, creating some issues with relationships to friends or other people, or maybe we're just feeling like it's, you know, kind of stirring the pot a little bit. So there is some pressure with that Mars-Pluto square, even though it's an out of sign square. We also see Jupiter in Gemini, okay? Not only is it trine Pluto, but it is also coming into a sextile with Neptune, another out of sign aspect. So Neptune's at 29 degrees. It's getting close to 0 degrees of Aries. Jupiter is sextiling Neptune. Jupiter traditionally is associated with Pisces. So this is interesting. So I think that the sextile really for me is bringing up powerful depths and psychic tuning. So we may feel during this new moon, especially with Jupiter and Mercury behind the moon, and that sextile to Neptune, that we're very tapped in. We have a really strong antenna that's up right now. We may be picking up on conversations and things or text messages or calls before it happens. We may intuitively or instinctively know what we have to start talking about or saying or learning or writing. Some of us know, I got to get a new car, I got to move, I got to go back to school. We know that there is some growth period that is brewing. I don't see this as a bad aspect because I feel like Jupiter is playing off of Neptune, you know, in a critical degree. It's saying some of us just are having these downloads or these dreams or these realizations that like now is the time. So you may feel like divinely inspired or directed to say something, write something, share something, go somewhere. And then in the background, we also see that Neptune at 29 degrees is sextiling right here Pluto at 1 degree. So it's another out of sign sextile. It's harder to see because I know they're out of sign, but this is also really potent because we got Pluto playing with Neptune, Neptune playing with Jupiter, Jupiter playing with Pluto. There's like big collective things going on with this. That Neptune sextile Pluto is uncovering something. It's uncovering some inner strength. It's uncovering some inner changes for the collective. It is also helping us tap into our goals. After all, Aquarius is all about our goals and where we're going in the future. So don't overlook and underestimate some of these aspects that we see that are going on with some of the outer planets. And then finally, this is a new moon where the conjunction to Venus is trining the South Node. So when we see trines to the South Node in Libra, this is basically helping us release and let go of the past, especially because Venus is the ruler of the South Node. It may be a time where we're like, you know what, I am finally moving on from that person. I am finally open to meeting new people. I am finally throwing away the photos. I'm dumping the text messages. I'm clearing the emails. And this is very harmonious when you see both the conjunction to the new moon and the trine to the South Node. Now, for some of you guys, it is going to feel like deja vu, especially with the squares to Saturn and Pisces, where you're like, oh my God, I feel like I've met this person before, or maybe the past is coming back, or there is some kind of karmic, relationship stuff at play. I've jokingly said several times that the twin flame community is going to have like an absolute field day with some of these aspects, but I think that they will because, there's this concept in that community that, there can be more than one love or connection or somebody who has like the other part of your soul. That's very Gemini, right? Twins. That conjunction to Venus and trine to the South Node can represent karmic clearings in certain relationships and where our times with certain people are now up, paving the way and providing us with the opportunity to bring in either another partner or, another phase in a relationship. I think that's happening for a lot of people where people are moving into a new phase and they're moving out of the honeymoon phase, which is more kind of like Pisces, and they're moving more into the, okay, we have to now learn how to communicate and like, what are we doing and where are we going? The world is changing when it comes to relationships as well. And so much about this new moon can be about how people are exploring their options when it comes to, open relationships, or polyamorous relationships or different types of relationships. And, not everybody is going to agree with that square to Saturn on a society level, but also in a sense of within our communities that we should be talking or teaching about certain lifestyles, or that we should be promoting one thing and not promoting another. And so I think that whenever you see mutable squares, you see kind of a discrepancy with belief systems, whether it's religion, culture, but in this case, I think it's going to be about relationships and different identities within, relationships and the roles that people play, or I guess the stereotypes in certain relationships, and a clear misunderstanding or misrepresentation of what these things are, right? So you're going to see all that stuff that's going to kind of come up with this. Anyway, that's the long and short of it. I hope that was really helpful in understanding the significance of this new moon in Gemini and how to work with this energy. I would like to take you through the 12 rising signs and talk to you guys a little bit about what this is going to be bringing up for each and every one of the 12 rising signs. I will tell you guys, number one, I'm a whole sign astrologer for my presentation. I like to use Placidus in my personal one-on-one readings. But for the sake of making this easy and convenient for you guys online, I show it to you in a whole sign format. So I'm a Western astrologer. That is what I practice. I'm not a Vedic astrologer. This is going to be whole sign for the 12 rising sun and moon sign predictions for the new moon in Gemini. As a reminder, you're going to want to look at where is 16 degrees in your chart. Okay, so if you have anything around 16 degrees of Gemini, it's more potent for you. 14 to 18 degrees is getting hit the most. And, you know, you want to look at what's going on with Mercury because it rules this moon. Really easy. It's in the same house. And you want to be paying attention to the power that's being pulled from Pluto and Aquarius. So there's support coming from there. And the square to Saturn that's happening in Pisces. But basically, long story short, the area that's going to be the most kind of focus is going to be the house where you're having the new moon. If you happen to be a Placidus user like me, then just look for where 16 degrees of Gemini is in your chart. You might have to listen to more than one sign and really pay attention to what's going on with Venus and Mercury in Gemini, because there's some sweet news or something that's coming in there. It's just that square to Saturn that's going to be at a cost, right? At a cost. So we're going to have the growth of something, right? That's coming in. Jupiter's there. At what cost? All right. Thank you. Let's start with my Aries and Aries risings. What's up, guys? How's it going? Probably a lot of what I said relates to you. We've got the new moon in Gemini in your third house, okay? And it is going to be with Mercury in that house, Jupiter in that house, so expanding communication, information, learning. Venus is involved here as well. So you're going to see a trine to Pluto, so it's helping you kind of connect to a collective. We also see a square to Saturn in the 12th house. I feel like for Aries and Aries rising and Aries moons, it's a lot of like, I have something I want to say, but I don't know if it's going to be well received. And it could be a conversation you need to have with your sibling, an email you need to send at work. It could be you're considering and contemplating moving, but you're fearful of some change. There can be some, you know, mental hesitations or insecurities about speaking up, you know, maybe starting a YouTube channel, writing a blog, learning something. And there is some kind of like, do I want to do that? Do I not want to do that? The positive is that, you know, a new moon in the third house with this conjunction, I think it's going to enhance your communication skills and your desire for learning. I think it's a great time to set intentions to improve your communication skills, learning a new skill, improving relationships with siblings as well as neighbors. Some of you guys are thinking about changing your vehicles, getting a new one. Maybe you're considering buying a new phone, a new laptop, because the third house is gadgets as well. So I think that in this case, it's positive in expanding all of the ways that you can communicate and connect. Like, don't have any fears or any hesitations about getting outside of your comfort zone, and don't doubt yourself, right? Wonderful time to get ready to launch a business if you have one online or a local business, or yeah, like a new social media or platform where you're going to be sharing information. Card that I get is the Hermit card. Look at that with Saturn in your 12th. So actually this is the card that's associated with Virgo, which is interesting because Mercury also rules your 6th house, which is Virgo. So I'm kind of wondering, like, is this connected to having some fears or hesitation about, you know, communicating with a coworker? Is it about you going, well, I'm focusing more on, you know, reflecting and prioritizing my mental health? You know, so much about the Hermit card is about going your own way, and it's a process of rediscovery and realizing, you know, your beliefs or what you need, and like it can be about an epiphany. It is possible that this can be about an epiphany that you have about a relationship with a sibling or female sibling, with Venus being there. An epiphany that you have also about something that you really want to write about or something you really want to talk about. But the Hermit card is very much about sitting and kind of marinating on it until you're coming to some kind of conclusion. That's mirrored very much with the square to Saturn. So maybe it's about getting started, and when you're kind of getting into later in the year, you may feel like it's time then to share what you've been writing or what you've been learning with other people. Good luck, Aries. We've got Taurus and Taurus rising. What's going on, Taurus? You got a new moon in Gemini. It's going to be in your 2nd house of money and income and personal resources and self-esteem. So this is a wonderful placement for you, Taurus. I should note also that, you know, the new moon, you know, being conjunct Venus is particularly fortuitous for you and Libra as well, because you're ruled by Venus. So this cazimi is extra sweet for you. Taurus, a new moon in the second house is all about setting intentions relating to your finances, values, and material possessions. So this is a conjunction with Venus that brings opportunities for financial growth and stability. And I think it's a good time to set intentions relating to your financial goals to improve your relationship with money and your self-esteem. Here's the deal. Venus rules you. So this is about improving your style, your beauty in some way. This could be about making a luxury investment or purchase. This can also be about really working on your self-esteem and how you feel about yourself. Venus also has connections to your 6th house, which is relating to health and habits. So there could be new mental health habits, diet habits, things that you're learning that's benefiting your health in some way. Obviously, Jupiter and Jupiter and Mercury are joining Venus in this sign. So it may mean that there is some good news coming in about an investment that you've made or somebody investing in you, some kind of collaboration of some kind. You're pulling energy with some of the trines to Pluto in your 10th house, or there's transformations with your career. However, there are squares between Saturn and Venus between your 11th and 2nd house. I see this as not having the same perspective on money as other people or values. I see this also as the money that you're bringing in is coming as a result of some kind of collaboration, maybe with other people, working with a team. Maybe your goals revolving around money are changing how you want to make money. Maybe you're open to another way of bringing in a second income stream. There can be some growing pains when it comes to finances and friends if you're collaborating with friendships or working with a friend or trying to start a business with a friend. I believe that the benefits outweigh the challenges of the Saturn square for you. However, you're going to feel the Venus square Saturn where you're going to be like, I can't share with everybody, or I can't work with everybody, or I can't, you know, like bring everybody in on what I'm working on or what I'm growing. So there may be this feeling of being like, yeah, I can't include certain people, or like things are going really well for you and you've got people who want to work with you and you're like, I can't, because you're very focused on what you're kind of building right now. So you may kind of feel pulled between two different directions. Do your money magic, Taurus and Taurus risings. This is the time to write down all of your financial goals and what you're hoping to achieve in the next 6 months. Card you get is 7 of Wands. So there is no knocking you down. This is my King of the Hill card. This is about overcoming challenges. You know, people always talk about how Jupiter transits are really good. And I feel like Jupiter is a beneficial planet, but it can also blow things wide open, and it can make things even bigger and more intense or overwhelming if there's already an overwhelming situation. So Jupiter rules your 8th house of other people's resources, tax. It can be also about loans, banking, you know, bills, and it's in the 2nd. So yes, you can be doing well, money can be coming in, but you could also be like, I have a lot of expenses. I have a lot of, you know, things going on. And so you can feel like you're constantly fending stuff off, or like right when you're starting to get ahead, you're like, and there's another thing. More money, more problems kind of comes to mind for me with this stellium in the 2nd house. That's like things are going well, but it's coming at the cost of doing business with other people, the cost of higher, you know, taxes, the cost of the karmic exchange with people. There's some catch here. And 7 of Wands is basically saying like not backing down from a situation, like not letting other people knock you off your top spot. I feel like this is about really protecting also what's yours. And so with Venus being in the 2nd house, a new opportunity could be presented to you when it comes to work or, you know, your career or your finances. And there's a sense of being like, I'm defending what's mine. I'm standing up for what's mine. And so maybe that's part of the Venus square Saturn, is creating boundaries with other people when it comes to friendships and money. Good luck, Taurus. We've got Gemini and Gemini rising. Obviously, this is one heck of a new moon in your sign. So if it's your birthday, around about a day before or after, this is really, really magical for you. So happy birthday if it is. But for all of my Gemini rising suns and moons, this is a really wonderful energy for you. You've got a new moon in your 1st house, Gemini, so this is going to be very personal to you. The 1st house is everything relating to yourself, your identity, your physical body. Ooh, Jupiter's in your sign. You guys get a new beginning. You're really optimistic and really willing to kind of start new patterns and bring in new things this year. And the conjunction between the new moon and Venus in your first house brings a new sense of identity and a new sense of self. So you may feel more confident, more charismatic, attracting more opportunities and relationships to you. It's a great time to set intentions related to self-improvement and personal growth. While the first house is the self, right? You're seeing that your 7th house ruler is in the first house. So you're bringing in clients, you're bringing in, you know, romantic partners, you've got suitors, you've got options, or you've got a partnership that's like around all of the time. Venus is very much connected to romance and children, as well as something about, you know, behind the scenes spirituality, creativity, self-expression, talents maybe that you have not, you know, really shown the world yet. I really feel like a new moon here is a time to be like, I'm really focusing on all of the things that I want to bring into my life, whether it's new love, if it happens to be a better spiritual connection, if it happens to be more clients, if it's more creative energy. My goodness, if you're somebody who's on stage, if you perform, like if you're a comedian, if you're an actor or an actress, if you're a musician of any kind, this is like all eyes are on you basically with this new moon, because it's really highlighting your 5th house and anything revolving around talent. Take a selfie, you know, get new headshots, you know, do something that's really going to be really showcasing just who you are and your beauty. You've got trines to the Pluto transit in your 9th house, which is really amplifying something about changes in your belief and also, you know, connections to education or mentors or teachers or travel. So you might be on the move with this trine to Pluto between Jupiter and Mercury. And then we have also got some squares that you're going to see with this new moon to Saturn. And so, you know, I kind of spoke about this in the horoscopes, and I was like, you know, you may have a situation where you're like, okay, you know, I'm really feeling myself, I'm looking good. And you may get some haters, you know, square to Saturn. You may get some bosses that are like, you can't be wearing that to work, but it looks like really good, right? There can be a sense of people who are not always going to be cheering for some of your accomplishments, but you continue to really focus on your growth anyway. Don't get kind of knocked down or be feeling limited by people at work or superiors, right? Or bosses or parents. Certainly the square can be where, you know, you're feeling limited by some of these people. I think that this is also a wonderful time to set intentions relating to self-improvement. So if you're like, I want to, you know, wear my hair a different way, I want to, you know, get a new style, I would like to, you know, work out more at the gym, gain muscle, lose weight, whatever, this would be a time that you're feeling more inclined to want to do that, to really better something about your appearance. But any intentions relating to you personally, this is the time to set those intentions. All right, let's see. I could see a lot of people that are making improvements to their appearance because of a career thing. Like, you know, you're like, okay, I'm putting up a new picture on LinkedIn, or, you know, I am in the spotlight, so I am focusing more on my appearance, or I'm reinventing myself. The card that you get is the 7 of Coins, which is working hard work, dedication, patience, and persistence, which is so beautiful because of the aspects that we see to Saturn. But this is about planting seeds, literally. Look, he's got a garden. So it's about being like, I'm going to do these things. I hope if I make these improvements or these changes, I am going to be more employable, or I am going to get more recognition, or I am, you know, I am going to get, you know, more visibility when it comes to my career. I do think that this is also about taking your time and not rushing through something. So it's about long-term goals rather than short-term goals. So even though you're going to see some pretty dramatic changes in the next month as we go into the next new moon that we'll have in Cancer, I would be thinking more about where you see yourself in 6 months when this becomes a full moon, right? That's just my 2 cents. Anyway, I hope that's helpful for you, Gemini. I hope it's a good one. We've got Cancer and Cancer rising. You guys are doing this new moon with a conjunction to Venus in your natal 12th house. My Cancers and Cancer risings. Well, the 12th house is a house of spirituality. It's a house of the subconscious, things that are hidden or potentially healing. It can also be about endings and completions here in the 12th house. All right, so I think with this particular new moon, this is all about, you know, deep spiritual experiences and healing. It's a good time to set intentions related to your spiritual growth and healing from past traumas, or letting go of things that no longer serve you. New moons are about new intentions. So you may notice as the new moon is coming in and the moon hits Mercury and Jupiter, you have some profound dream, or there is like a reading or some kind of message that you get from your higher self about where you begin again, right? Venus is conjunct this new moon, and Venus is about your friendships. It's also about the past and your home or your family in some capacity. This is a new moon to get quiet, get into a space, you know, sit down, burn some incense, meditate, take time to journal and reflect. And, you know, you're getting ready to come into, for Cancer Suns, your birthday season. So this is kind of the period where you reflect on everything that's happened for the last year, and you're now coming into what's going to be your birthday season. And so you can kind of start new with this next new moon next month. You're pulling energy from the trines to Pluto in your 8th house of changes and transformations, of friends, of joint resources, also of intimacy. So there's lots of powerful insights and endings and completions happening here. You are also seeing simultaneously that there are going to be some squares to Saturn, which is in your 9th house of your beliefs and travel and the higher mind and education. Definitely there is a sense, I think, with squares between the 12th and the 9th house of a change in your belief system. You may be feeling like you're moving away from, you know, like a certain spiritual or religious practice, or a certain teacher or a mentor or a guide. You may be feeling like you're more turning inward and wanting to do work less in a way where you're being guided, more in a way where you're kind of instinctually or intuitively tapping in. Challenging for, you know, completing travel or education. So some of you guys might be feeling like, well, I want to go back to school, but I don't know if I want to do it in a traditional way, Saturn. I want to travel, but, you know, I'm limited as to where I can actually go, or when I can actually, you know, be free to travel. Certainly Jupiter being the connection to your 6th house means that there might be completions going on in terms of your health and your mental health, or where you're working and your habits. So there is lots of shifts revolving around your belief system and your philosophy. And for you, I think the new moon is about kind of filtering everything out that you're ready to let go of. So that way you can start fresh next month. All right, so let's take a look and see what the cards say for Cancer. Somebody was going to pull it. It was you. So this is, I think, going to go in the path of Venus being in your 12th house. And you got to think about what was happening in 2020. 2020 and 2021, when you're having those eclipses and when you had the Kazimis. Was there some kind of long lost love? Was there somebody who came in that, you know, it woke you up and kind of shook you to your core? Was it some kind of karmic soul relationship? Was it something that was a star-crossed lover situation? You know, did it end in a dramatic way? I mean, I know Pluto's been in your 7th house, so maybe, but 7th house can also be this the 12th house, excuse me, can be this feeling of, you know, having this deep connection to somebody, but not feeling like you could quite connect. And so I think the Lover's card is saying, like, could there be, you know, a reemergence of somebody who comes back? Could it be that you finally, you know, like, put the past in the past and you heal it and you let it go and you let that person go? New options and new choices. This can also be just an indication that there is some really strong karmic romantic things going on behind the scenes that may continue to stay hidden while they're in the 12th house, but you have to make a choice, right? That's what the Lover's card's all about. Good luck. We've got Leo and Leo rising. You'll be experiencing this new moon in Gemini with a Venus Cazimi in your natal 11th house. So this is such an awesome place to have this, Leo. It's all about your hopes and wishes, communities, networking, and also connections that you have to friends. So a new moon being in the 11th house is definitely a time that you really want to be focusing on new friendships, improvements with your community, your involvement with certain networks, or, you know, like group dynamics. It's a great time to set intentions relating to your social life, your hopes and dreams, and also any involvement with social causes. Obviously, a new moon's important because the sun rules your chart. So when the sun and the moon come together, it's a really potent energy where it's kind of showing you like, hey, this is where you're setting, you know, new intentions in regards to this phase of your life, more than most signs. The fact that Venus is going to be in conjunction, it can mean that there is a reconnection with a female friend that you haven't seen in a while. Venus does connect to your 3rd house of communications, learning, siblings, and traveling, as well as your 10th house of career. Two themes come to mind: traveling and meeting and connecting with a friend, and also this can be about joining some kind of professional network or through some kind of connection with a woman. She or they may be bringing you into an opportunity to network with other people that are going to help expand your career. Parties, gatherings, get-togethers. I mean, come on, Venus, the moon, and Jupiter all being in your 11th house. This is a time to like really celebrate and get together and have a good time. So there's going to be much more emphasis on your relationships to some of these people. You're pulling energies from trines to Pluto in your 7th house, where there's radical transformations going on in the relationship front. Friends can be giving you advice about relationships, or you may find that through socializing and connecting with other people, it's opening the door to possibly getting set up by a friend or, being introduced to somebody new. It may also help you navigate some of the changes that's going on in your relationship dynamics and relieve some kind of pressure there. Equally, you're going to be seeing some squares that are going to be taking place to Saturn. And I think you're going to feel it, especially because the sun rules your chart. So that Saturn square is definitely highlighting and really kind of showing you that change is good, right? Saturn in the 8th house, you may feel a little unsure about making changes to your friends. You may be a little uneasy about being vulnerable and sharing things about yourself. And, you might feel weird going places where you don't know others and kind of awkward. But I would say do it anyway, right? Get outside of your comfort zone. Saturn in the 8th house is about intimacy, transparency, joint resources. It's also about relationships. So this is a time where you're learning a lot about being open, being vulnerable, whether that's about your relationship status, about your financial status, and it also may be about learning how to develop intimacy in other ways outside of just physical intimacy or romantic love. This is about intimacy in being able to confide in other people. This is about also putting yourself out there and being raw and vulnerable. But it can also be about, choosing to be around people who are more positive and more optimistic or more spiritual. And that may be kind of playing off of, the Saturn square. All right, let's take a look. Let's see what the cards are showing for you. I think for a lot of you guys, you're like, I just want to be around people who are helping me grow. And maybe that's kind of like the how do I meet these people vibe. The card that you get is the 6 of Cups. So this is the reconnection card. I do think that most likely, because it's in your 11th house, you're reconnecting with a friend you haven't seen in a while. But, this is a reconnection card. There are some trines to Pluto, so it does mean that if there's been some turbulence in a relationship or even in a friendship, it is possible that you can kind of smooth things over. Perfect time to do it with Venus. Reconnect, forgive one another if there's been some issues, and it can kind of be like water under the bridge. This is also about reminiscing about the past and sweeter times. So there can be getting together with friends that you went to college with and you went to high school with and being like, wow, this is amazing. I miss these people so much. I haven't seen them in some time. And finding that the connections that you have with people are really sweet. And maybe you're recognizing and realizing that you've really missed them and that it's good to kind of have them around. Good luck, Leo. We got Virgo and Virgo rising. You're going to be doing the new moon in Gemini with a conjunction to Venus in your natal 10th house. For you, Virgo, this is all about your career, reputation, and also your public image. Wonderful energy for you, although I will say to Virgo, Sag, and Pisces, you guys will be feeling some of the squares, so be mindful of that there can be almost like a feeling of growing pains that's coming up for you right now. The new moon in the 10th house for me is like a perfect time for really focusing on new career opportunities and improvements to your public image. A new job may be presented to you. You may get a promotion. It's also possible that there is some kind of new professional or business partnership. This is a time also that is really about setting intentions relating to improving your reputation or kind of broadening your horizons when it comes to your career goals. Now, the new moon is conjunct Venus. Venus is about money and personal resources for you. It is also connected to the 9th house of education and travel. So it is possible that a job may open up in another location and they're saying, well, we will pay for you to relocate. Or, we would love for you to have these skills. We want to pay for you to do your training, or we want to pay for you to go back to school and get, your bachelor's, your master's, or some kind of certification. It can also mean that there is something very positive and optimistic happening at work with Mercury conjunct Jupiter at the time. So Mercury rules your chart, where you're already saying, yes, this is already starting. I'm totally stoked for it. I'm excited. You know, I'm getting ready to start this new job. It's wonderful. The other thing that's worth mentioning is that we're going to see some trines to Pluto. And so Mercury and Jupiter trine Pluto are saying change to your habits, your routine, maybe where you're working or the team that you're working with. It might feel like you're more on top of your health, you're more on top of your chores and your habits more than usual. And you also have a square between the new moon and Saturn. Now you'll feel this energy for a couple days. It may be a little bit stronger for you if you have any personal planets around 14 to 20 degrees of Virgo, sun, moon, or rising. This is where your career is expanding. Things are opening up in terms of your reputation and, you know, your status out in the world. And it's not just about your professional life. It could be about your romantic life too, and who you're in relationship with. Because Jupiter rules your 7th house of relationships, it might mean that, you know, you're announcing to the world, I'm getting engaged, or I'm married, you know, or we're separating or divorcing. That can happen. That new moon is going to square Saturn, which means that there is growth coming for your status. It is coming for your career. It's coming for your reputation, but at the cost of Saturn, another person. So you might be feeling like you're prioritizing your career, but your partner might be like, where are you? You might feel like work is going really well, but you're like, when do I make time for dating? This can also be an indication that, you know, there is going to need to be some give and take, that if you want to have this new status, it's going to require you maybe to commit more seriously to a romantic partner, because Saturn in the 7th could be getting married, getting engaged. Saturn is the ruler of your 5th house. It could mean that, you know, the responsibility comes with children, possibly in regards to your relationship. But bottom line is, this is a wonderful energy for you when it comes to really improving and updating your career and also your status and your reputation. If you're looking for a new job, if you're wanting to get a promotion, if you're wanting to give a pitch or launching something business-wise, this is the new moon to do it. Card that I get is the Ace of Wands. Okay, so it's saying new creative opportunities, new beginnings are happening. Things that you're passionate about. This is about things that are daring, creative, spontaneous, unexpected. This is about going after the things in life that you love the most. I think this is also partially connected to Mars, and the fact that Mars is about to go into your 9th house, and it's going to be, you know, throughout that transit, trining your Virgo placements. It may be about your shifts about work and career, and your status are changing and you're willing to kind of rise to the occasion. And also, I think this can be giving you a lot of energy to feel like, even though you may be in a market where there's a lot of competition, or challenging to get, you know, the top spot, or challenging to get hired, or that the market is like really difficult, it looks like you're going to rise to the occasion, and things are going to go well. Okay. Good luck, guys. We have Libra and Libra rising. You'll be experiencing a new moon in the sign of Gemini in your natal 9th house. Libra, this will be conjunct Venus, so it's extra sweet for you. And equally, Gemini is a fellow sister air sign. So if you have any placements that's like 14 to 18 degrees of Libra, sun, moon, rising, this will be trining those points, which is wonderful. Having a new moon in the 9th house for you, Libra, this is about travel, higher learning, and philosophy. This is also about teaching or mentors. This is also about publishing as well. So this conjunction is bringing opportunities that you are initiating, Libra, okay, because of the conjunction to Venus, for travel, higher learning, or exploring new philosophies. So it's a good time to set intentions relating to expanding your knowledge, traveling, or exploring new spiritual paths. I really like the Jupiter-Mercury conjunction because it's really highlighting your 9th and your 12th house lord. So it may mean that like you're wanting to explore foreign lands, maybe learning a new language. This is also a really powerful time if you're wanting to go back to school to get a degree, if you're wanting to start teaching, or if you want to publish something. This may be the theme. I'm also liking the fact that this trine to Pluto in your 5th house is about things that are going to be creative. It's about things that are going to be fun and really amplifying your self-expression, and something about a hobby. I could see some like Libra risings planning some really nice international trips, or considering doing some publishing somehow related to younger people or children. The other thing to take into consideration is that Venus rules your 8th house of other people's resources. So you may be kind of thinking about creative ways that you can drum up more money that might be through 9th house avenues. What you want to watch for is that this is a new moon that is going to square Saturn, and Saturn is in your 6th house of health, habits, and daily routine. So while the 9th house is expanding and it wants to travel and it wants to learn, or it wants to take on some new opportunity to teach or possibly publish something or expand in some way in terms of your belief in your philosophy, the squares to Saturn mean that you're like, do I have time to go on this trip? You know, who is the right teacher to teach me these things? You know, how is my health impacting, you know, my ability to be more positive and optimistic? How is my daily grind inhibiting me from being able to feel so free? And that is something that you're going to have to kind of contend with basically for the immediate next month, but also like 6 months as this becomes a full moon. What I will tell you is that Saturn wants to make sure that you're not overlooking your duties. It wants to make sure you're not overlooking the work you need to get done. It will provide some challenges sometimes with coworkers and scheduling. So it wants to make sure before you go and buy those plane tickets or you start planning all of that stuff, do you have time for it? Are you capable of being able to, you know, make time to see all the things and do all the things that you want to do? 9th house is a very positive house. So I think with Jupiter being there and the trines to your sign naturally, you're really kind of saying it's a shift of the mind and realizing that you're prioritizing the things that are going to bring you the most joy, even if it means that you have to create some schedule changes or you have to cut back on certain things in order to make some of these things possible. Anyway, I hope you guys go on some trips with this personally, or you're planning some. Let's see, what do you get? You get the Knight of Cups. Following your heart, I guess that sounds silly, but that's kind of what the Knight of Cups is about. This can be romance at a distance. This can be traveling with a partner and going on a trip. This can be meeting somebody who lives somewhere else and some kind of long distance relationship is starting. Yeah, that can happen. Watch for connections to water signs. So Cancer, Scorpios, and Pisces can come through with the Knight of Cups. But I think this is about going after where you feel the most inspired, where you feel the most creative and emotionally kind of connected. And so some of you guys might be exploring, well, are there other things that I would want to go back to school for? Are there other things that I would want to learn so I can actually make some changes in my career? That's very possible. Good luck, Libra. We've got Scorpio and Scorpio rising. You will be doing a new moon in Gemini in your natal 8th house conjunct Venus. All right, so for you, my Scorpios, this is the house that you're familiar with. It's all about transformation, shared resources, intimacy, taxes, new beginnings, and also skeletons in the closet. So having a new moon in your 8th house is going to be basically bringing up, especially with the conjunction to Venus, deep transformation and improvements in your intimate relationships. It's a good time to set intentions related to healing, financial transformations, and it can have a pretty significant impact on your sex life as well. So having a new moon here, you know, you're basically manifesting change. You're manifesting merger with other people, how you can bring in more resources, how you can grow investments, but also this is about intimacy. So if you want to have a better sex life, if you want to go deeper with a partner, if you want to heal issues revolving around relationship communication, then the 8th house new moon is the time to do it. Now the sweet is that it's conjunct Venus. So Scorpio, Venus rules your 7th house of relationships and partners, as well as the 12th house of what is subconscious and unseen. So it means that if you're in a relationship, this is a time where you're going to be really expanding intimacy through communication and transparency and like learning how to be vulnerable and talking about things and dealing with issues in relationships and having a rebirth of relationships through deep conversation. Or therapy. 8th house can be about bringing in a therapist or another person to help with that process and to heal any trauma or any hangups that you might have in relationships. Another positive is that this new moon is going to feature a Mercury-Jupiter conjunction. So it's good news involving money with other people or magnified situations involving money of other people. So you could have lots of changes going on with your partner's income. Siblings can also have changes in their money or their resources as well, and that can have an impact on you. And this will be trining Pluto. So that those conversations about money, changes of resources, what you're doing with your resources, you know, where maybe you're pulling in support from other people, That is all directly trining Pluto in your 4th house. So through those changes, those ups and downs with other people, it has a huge impact on you and your home and your family. I see this being positive. I don't see this being negative, although other people's finances can impact your home. So if it is, you know, kind of going sideways, you could feel like, well, this is like a big problem. But because Venus is involved, I feel like it's other people coming in that are going to be having a rebirth of their financial situation, which will directly positively impact you. You're just waiting for that to kind of come to fruition. Salty or challenging aspects would definitely be that the new moon squares Saturn. So Saturn is in your 5th house. It's about self-love. It's about creativity, self-expression. This is about fun. You know, Saturn in the 5th house is a total romance killer. It can feel like it's hard to express yourself. It can feel like it's difficult to meet people. But the positive is that it's trying to get you to kind of realize, like, I have to love me. I have to have fun. I have to, you know, express myself. And this limitation or this blockage of the heart space, or this blockage or limitation with children, or the idea of children, or vulnerability and issues from your childhood, are going to kind of be highlighted. That's going to come through your 8th house of intimacy. So you have to kind of talk about it in some way. The new moon can talk about where the focus and the need to grow or manage or make changes in your resources or insurance or investments are directly stemming from children. So some people can be like, okay, I'm pregnant, I got to get insurance, or, you know, now we have to figure out how we're going to merge our finances because we're getting married, or maybe you're making an investment with a partner. So there is some sense of, you know, feeling a little kind of iffy about the idea of like really going all in with another person. But when in doubt, talk it out. That seems to be the lesson here. And I think that it can be really beneficial for other people blessing you, Scorpio, because of, well, Venus ruling your 7th house. Anyway, let's take a look. Let's see what's going on with this new moon for my Scorpio risings. You get the Page of Wands, which I actually kind of like, to be honest with you, because there's a definite lack of fire energy that's happening in this chart, other than Mars, and Mars is about to change signs. I think that the Page of Wands can be talking about being more playful, more creative, more curious. This can also be about taking initiative when it comes to instigating ways of being more vulnerable, and I think, having more intimacy. Fire signs like Leos, Aries, and Sagittarius can come up here. This can also be new creative ways that you're looking at kind of growing your income and making investments. But I think for the most part, you know, Page of Wands connected to the 8th house is just creating more opportunities for intimacy and like being able to have a little bit of like a more active and kind of like spicy sex life. And that if not, then this is going to be about finding ways to be able to increase intimacy with someone else. Good luck. We've got Sag and Sag rising. You guys will be having a new moon in Gemini in your opposite sign in the 7th house of relationships. This will be a new moon that is going to feature a Venus Cazimi, a conjunction with Venus, which is very fortuitous for you, Sag. What can I say about this? Well, partnerships, marriage, contracts, therapists, your clientele, if you have a client-based business, your marketplace, if you sell something or if you have services, is your 7th house. So for you, I think this is a really pivotal time for relationships. So there's something really significant that's emerging for you guys. We have got the new moon, so this is going to be bringing up in the 7th house, you know, a new partnership, or, you know, basically improving existing relationships. It's a good time to set intentions relating to finding a new partner, improving your marriage, or signing contracts. Now, Jupiter rules your chart. So Jupiter in the 7th house means that you're expanding, communicating, talking, traveling in some capacity with a new person. If not, they may show up after this new moon. This is also about improving the relationship maybe that you have with a sibling, right? Because Gemini can be siblings. Anyway, we have got this new moon, which is ruled by Mercury, and Mercury is in the 7th house. Sometimes people come in pairs, so you can meet more than one person with this transit if you are single. And Venus is directly connected to your 11th house of friends, socializing, networks, and parties. So it may be possible for you to be like connecting with new friends, introducing romantic partners to people, getting set up by friends, by people that they want you to meet. as well as your 6th house, which is about health and habits. So I could see you communicating a lot more, making friends at work. It could also mean that there's some sense of working out or being more active and doing things more with some of your friends as well. Positives of this new moon is definitely going to be the Mercury-Jupiter conjunction. So right before the new moon, Mercury and Jupiter actually conjunct. So some of you guys will actually meet somebody right before this new moon because that represents your 1st and 7th house. Could be a first date, could be you connect with them or match with them on an app, or maybe somebody asks you for your number, and then after the new moon there is some kind of growth period. But for existing relationships, it's really positive that there's about to be an improvement for your relationship. Now, these 2 placements are trining Pluto. So it might mean that there is more in-depth communication and conversation with your partners. You are talking about traveling together. You are talking about moving together in some way. Maybe you want to buy a car together. Maybe you're taking a class or you're learning something together or reading a book on relationships and bettering your relationships. Now the salty, because there is some salty, is that the new moon with Venus does start to come into a square with Saturn and Pisces in your 4th house. So same thing I said to Virgo, I'm going to say to you and also to Pisces. These are mutable squares, which means change. It's happening in the angular houses of your chart, which make life rather interesting. Things start getting kind of active when you see squares in these houses. The 1st house is you, the 4th house is home, 7th is other people, and then 10th is more about career and reputation. And like, it's kind of crazy because you have your 1st, 10th, and 7th house ruler all in the 7th. So there's a lot going on with other people. It's all squaring Saturn. So it's basically saying, okay, where can relationships evolve and improve? And where do we need to leave the past in the past, right? Saturn in the 4th. Saturn is about money stuff. It's about self-esteem stuff. It's about security stuff. And in the 4th house, you might feel like I am determined to never leave my house. But, I've met somebody who wants to go out and do things all the time. I'm responsible for taking care of an aging or sick parent or family matter, but I've made this new connection and I'm trying to figure out if I'm going to make time for them or not. So there can be a little bit of push and pull. I think the benefits outweigh the negatives. I think that you're going to have a situation where you've got somebody in your life, whether it's a therapist, a friend, a sibling, or a romantic relationship, that are trying to be more positive and optimistic, and they're trying to kind of pull you out of your shell, and they're kind of saying, come on, let's go and do life together, let's travel, let's move in together, let's get married, and it can be positive for you, Sag, because it's getting you out of a funk if you felt like your family drama, your home situation, whatever, has been very limiting. So I encourage you to really show up for this. And if you don't want to meet anybody, that's fine. It might be a therapist that comes in, it might be a new friend that comes in. It can be that you're hanging out with a sibling more, but whoever this person is that comes in, you want to work with them because they are going to be helping you kind of finally let the past be in the past and embrace new opportunities for relationships in the future. Okay? Extra sweet for my Saggies. Let's take a look. Ooh, relationship stuff coming to an end first. So, Ten of Swords. Sometimes, because Ten of Swords, it's a completion. It's about kind of like overcoming where maybe you have felt disappointed or stabbed in the back or, taken advantage of, like where there's been some stuff that's happened in relationships in the past. Go back and look at what happened in 2020. Okay, what happened in 2020 when you were having these Kazemi points? Was there an ending of a relationship for you with the eclipses in the North Node? Did you meet somebody during that time and then now it's kind of coming to a close? Even though this is a very positive transit, I can see in some situations where it can either be the end of one relationship, which makes way for another, or the end of one phase of a relationship that's like, okay, we've done that, now we're moving on to the next thing. And definitely Pisces can be things that have been kind of lurking in your subconscious or things that have been kind of like hanging out that you didn't really realize was taking up a lot of space, that was keeping you subconsciously blocked from being able to move forward in terms of partnerships and relationships. So there needs to be some kind of clearing in order for there to be a beginning. And that's very obvious with the square, and especially opposing you, right? Let me know, Sag, how does this affect you and how does that kind of correlate with this new moon? Good luck. We've got Capricorn and Capricorn rising. You guys are going to be experiencing a new moon in the sign of Gemini in your natal 6th house, conjunct Venus. For my Capricorn and Cap risings, this is the house of health, work, and service. Some of your favorite things. And, you know, it's actually pretty positive for you because this is really kind of amplifying and making the intentions revolving around these topics a lot more positive. Now, the 6th house is all about, especially with this conjunction, improving your health and your work life, making it more beautiful, more comfortable, having, you know, health come with ease, having results from, you know, changes at work come with ease, better relationships with people that you work with. It's a good time to set intentions revolving around your health and improving your health and finding a new job or getting like a new office of some kind. So Venus is connected to your 5th house of romance, children, and creativity. It's also connected to your 10th house of career. So you may be feeling like I'm working hard when it comes to, you know, my creative projects at work. I'm working hard and there's a lot of responsibility revolving around taking care of a child because of the 5th house Lord. It can be a time where you pick up a second job. It can be a time where you join a new gym. I could see with like Venus being in conjunction, like some of you guys might go to health spas. Some of you guys might join like higher end gyms or be indulging a little bit more in health and wellness. I could definitely see that happening. I also think that the, you know, trines that we're seeing between Jupiter and Mercury to Pluto means that, you know, some of this expansion with your health habits or your career is transforming something about your assets, your resources, the money that you make. So that's positive. I kind of see you and Aquarius and Pisces dealing with this a little bit better with the square, but I have to bring that up as well. But you will see that the new moon with Venus is kind of slightly squaring Saturn in your sign, okay? Excuse me, Saturn in Pisces, but Saturn rules your chart. So Saturn is in the 3rd house where you're really focusing on, you know, having boundaries with communication. There can be some challenges and hangups with vehicles. There can be some challenges and hangups with relating ideas to other people or, you know, communicating with siblings. It could also be that you're kind of planning on maybe a move or a change with your living situation, and that's coming into friction, right? Saturn with your schedule. So it might be something like, I'm supposed to be moving and like, I'm just starting a new job, or, you know, I just, you know, I just got a new job and, you know, my computer broke down. So now I got to get a new laptop. That could be the square between the 3rd and the 6th. The positives outweigh the negatives, I think, because Saturn is in a superior position, that the new moon is basically saying, really, this is good. If you take a second job, if you end up moving to a new location, if they have new staff members that get hired at work, maybe if you have some realization about your health, you know, like you will be able to improve it, basically. That's what I kind of see happening. What else? This can be good for pets. I could definitely see some of you guys considering adopting a pet. Or getting a new, you know, kind of furry friend with cat or bird or dog, something small because Mercury's involved. And what else? That's pretty much it. I mean, I think that this is just going to be about productivity. You know, the one thing I would say is that this does in conjunct or quincunx your sign. So there is a sense of being kind of like not seeing eye to eye with Gemini energy very well. You know, Capricorn likes to have structure and timing, and there's like a lot of being super focused and kind of rigid about your routine. So you're trying to keep an open mind during this time and being flexible about what your schedule could look like and how you could work and when you could make time to kind of fit in either extra work or more of a focus or an emphasis when it comes to your health and also your habits. Ooh, Hermit card again. Interesting. It's good. That's a good card for the 6th house, actually. So, you know, something that I would say is that this looks like it's something you're going to be kind of really meditating on. Like there's something that you're really sitting on and you're like, you know, where can I be of most help? Where can I, you know, get the most work done? Where am I going to be the happiest? Like what is going to be best for my health or for my lifestyle? I think just Jupiter going into the 6th house, it would be an indication that you're going to have better health this year. But having like Mercury there along with Venus tells me that the new habits that you're building is actually going to be not just beneficial for your physical health, but also your mental health. So there can be a sense of like incorporating biking, walking, journaling, something that's Gemini-like that's going to help you have a better mind, body, spirit balance. And that when you start really reflecting on what it means to be healthy in all capacities, that's when you're starting to kind of connect the dots and realize like, okay, I need to be doing more than just eating well. I need to also like work out, or I need to, you know, have better boundaries with people. And It looks like you're going to be really clear about when it comes to your needs, and whether that's like when, you know, you go to bed and you're like, my phone's on do not disturb, you know, I'm not going to be using my phone all the time. That could be a manifestation of Saturn square. Or just having more control over your schedule and when you are on and working and when you are on your off time. So you feel like you have more time for that life balance, right? Great card for that. Good luck, my Capricorns. We've got Aquarius and Aquarius rising. You're going to be doing this new moon in Gemini in your 5th house. It will be conjunct Venus, and it's in a fellow sister air sign. So it will be trining your sun, moon, or rising if you have anything from about 14 to 18 degrees of Aquarius. I love this for you guys. I'm really excited to see what happens here. You know, you're going to have this new moon in the 5th house, which is all about creativity, romance, children, self-expression, creative projects. A new moon in the 5th house, especially with the Venus conjunction, can really enhance your creativity and bring new romance or improve existing relationships. It's a great time to set intentions relating to creative projects, love, or children. I love this so much for you guys. So a new moon here, like if you want to get back out there and meet somebody and start dating, this is the time to do it. If you want to start a new hobby, this is the time to do it. This is about taking risks, taking chances. This is a very fertile energy also. So like a new moon in the 5th house, if you're, you know, trying to kind of plan on conceiving or you're wanting to kind of have a child, this would be a good time to start. I think that factored with a conjunction to Venus does indicate there's a lot of sweetness coming in, a lot of romance, a lot of playtime. Venus rules the 9th house of higher education, travel, and belief system, as well as your 4th house of home. So you may be saying, well, I'm expanding the way that I look at home, the way that I look at family, or I'm expanding my home because my family is expanding. Maybe there's good things coming in for your children if you already have, you know, grown or adult children here. The other thing to consider is that Mercury is conjunct Jupiter in the 5th house. So there is, once again, good news involving children or, you know, taking risks or new creative projects that you're working on. That's trining Pluto in your sign. So it's saying that, you know, you're sharing some information about your kids or what big thing is changing in the life of you and your family, or, you know, maybe you're open to change and you're saying, yeah, I would consider, you know, moving in with a partner, or, you know, I am, you know, helping my kid buy or renovate a house, or I am launching, you know, this new creative project, and you're wanting to kind of share it with the world. So this is very heart open, very communicating how you're feeling about that stuff. The challenge is that we will see on the other side of this that there will be some squares between the new moon and Venus to Saturn in your 2nd house. It's a superior angle. So basically, you know, Saturn is not taking any shit from this square. Saturn is basically saying, I'm going to hold the line. Well, you're Saturn. You're traditionally ruled by Saturn. So you're going to say, okay, when it comes to my money, my resources, my self-esteem, my, you know, personal belongings, it's being challenged by your 5th house. So it might mean that your kids are like, oh my God, you know, we're having another kid. And you're like, I got another grandkid that I have to buy a gift for. You know, that could happen. It may mean that there's new expansion and beginning that's going on with creative projects, or with, you know, maybe your own business. And you're like, yeah, it's going to cost me. I have to invest some of my resources to grow this, or it's going to cost, you know, paint supplies or time or whatever, things that you're going to have to kind of buy in order to participate in this thing that looks like it's a lot of fun and you're going to love it. So yes, fun, expansion, dating, you know, other things kind of comes at a cost. As long as that cost is not something that's taking a swipe at your self-esteem, you're in the green, you're good. This may mean you're feeling more likely to gamble, take chances, invest money, and you're like, how much am I willing to actually potentially lose? How much am I willing to kind of change? I would say the positive in this is all of the trines to your sign. That if you are making the priority, communicating, creating, having fun, you know, joy, experiencing, having playtime, as long as you're not overdoing it and overspending, like, you're going to be fine. Get out there, date, meet people, have fun. That's my advice. And I think with that Venus Cazimi, it's possibly that there is like a new creative space in your home that's emerging that could be happening. So you're being given the space to be able to do more of this stuff. Let's take a look. card that I get is the Page of Pentacles. Okay, so you know the rule is if I pull a new moon or a full moon in the 5th house and I pull a page, there's definitely children energy, pregnancy energy, or new lover, playmate energy that can come in, because that can be pages. So look for earth signs, okay? So like Tauruses, Capricorns, Virgos, these people can kind of come into your life. But this can also be about new opportunities to take chances and make investments. This could also be investing in some of your personal talents. There might be some things that are coming up where you're like, actually, I'm really good at doing this thing, and you might want to learn how to do it better. So like, let's say it's painting and you want to invest in, you know, getting some paint instruction lessons, or maybe it's cooking or it's writing or whatever. You're saying, okay, I'm going to invest some time or some energy or some resources into this to help this grow, because I see a potential opportunity here to actually bring in some abundance. Good luck. That's a good one for you guys. I like that. You have to let me know what happens there. And then last but not the least, we have our Pisces and Pisces risings. What's going on, guys? I hope you're doing well. You're going to be doing this new moon in Gemini in your natal 4th house. This is going to be conjunct Venus. And well, the new moon in the 4th house is all about home, family, and your roots. So something to think about is that it will be conjunct Venus, making it extra sweet. Venus rules your 3rd house of siblings, communication, and neighbors, as well as your 8th house of joint resources and partner assets and investments and shared monies. So I do see this new moon in the 4th house bringing you an opportunity, I think, especially with the Venus conjunction, for beautiful new beginnings for your home and your family life. It's a time to set intentions relating to improving your home environment, strengthen your family relationships, or heal from past family issues. Wonderful for interior design, home purchases, family businesses, real estate type of moves. But I also am really curious because of the conjunction and Venus's connection to your 3rd. Moving in with a sibling, buying and renovating a home with a sibling, buying a second home, traveling until you find the place that you want to call home. These things can kind of happen here. Now, the other thing is that there's some really wonderful aspects. We are going to see that there will be a trine between Mercury and Jupiter to the 12th house. Pluto transit, so your Jupiter and Mercury rules relationships. And so it looks like there's a new beginning coming from the home front, but it may be because of some change that's happened. You know, maybe somebody, you know, in the family it passes and you inherit the home. Maybe you have a change in your relationship, or there is like a roommate that leaves your house and then, you know, you decide not to renew your lease and then you move. Some change or ending can be happening, which is paving the way because of the trine to Pluto for some new opportunity for your home or living situation. So it is positive for you because Venus and Jupiter are there, but it's because there's an end of a situation. These changes could also be for your relatives. These changes could be for like a sibling or a parent, and then that's actually what's bringing you the opportunity, right? And allowing you to expand your home in some way. The trines to Pluto is changing something about your philosophy or your belief system, about the world, or about the way that you look at endings and beginnings. And we are also going to see that the new moon will square Saturn in your sign. So you're having Saturn in a superior position. Saturn's in the 1st house of self. So this is about your boundaries, your needs, your standards that you have for yourself and your independence, right? It's all about your goals. And Saturn is squaring this new moon, which means like there's new opportunities coming on the home front, where maybe there's a second home that, you know, pops up that you could potentially consider renting, and you're going back and forth between two, or maybe it's going to be about some new beginnings happening with your home and your family, and you're kind of being beckoned to come home and you're like, I don't want to do that, you know? Saturn in your 1st house can make you a little grumpy. It can also make you fiercely independent and kind of evasive of certain home and family obligations. So it can mean that, you know, there's all these great things happening and you're like, I really don't want to go to my cousin's wedding, you know, or like, I'm really focused on moving. I can't be going and dealing with like family stuff right now. Something like that can be kind of coming up. Growing pains come to mind. And I would say to you, more than I think most of the other signs, pay attention to June, because these squares to Saturn are where you're going to kind of see, okay, home relationship things are expanding so much that it's pushing you out of your comfort zone, and it's trying to get you to not be so rigid, or it's trying to get you to be flexible or open-minded to where you can live or how you can live, or even being flexible with your living situation until you kind of figure out where you're going to land, right? More sweet than it is salty, and I really feel like this is such a wonderful time to be improving relationships with relatives and also beautifying your home and finding the perfect space if you are considering finding a new location. See what these cards say for you, my Pisces. Card that I get is the Queen of Wands. Okay, so this is about making things happen, taking action. Watch for support that you may get from a fire sign. So it can be like an Aries or a Leo or a Sagittarius. Queen of Wands is about being really dynamic, making things happen, you know, being focused on creativity. It might mean that you're kind of feeling like, hey, I want to paint the house, or, you know, I want to kind of put up some art somewhere, or I want to kind of like redesign something. And you're just looking at your space from like a different perspective or having a different vision, and it's inspiring you and making you like want to create this whole new like living dynamic. It can also be that people come in that help you with that process. So it could be like interior designers, architects, landscapers, other people who can be kind of helping you kind of beautify and create a little bit more life in your living space. All right, guys. Well, that was a bit on this new moon. I'm excited to see what happens. You know, I've been going back and forth with a couple other astrologers about these aspects, trying to kind of figure out, like, you know, how is this going to land with the Cazimi and the square to Saturn. The jury, I think, is still out on a lot of this stuff, so we'll have to see. Let me know your comments below. What do you think? How do you see this playing out? And what was going on for you in the summer of 2020 when we were having this other Venus Cazimi and the eclipses in the retrograde? Because I think we're going to see some deja vu. Thank you guys for joining me so much. I hope this was helpful. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And until next time, stay curious, stay connected, and stay true to yourself with this new moon in Gemini. I'll catch you back here next time. Take care.